Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to review the Golden Harvest V3 Swappable Saber Core from Bendu Armory. Now for anybody unfamiliar with Bendu Armory's swappable chassis system is a self-contained chassis that's everything that makes the lightsaber do what a lightsaber does, and then a shell that's made of carbon fiber and goes on over top of it. All right, this chassis right here is the Golden Harvest version. So let me break out the CFX, which was their older one. I did a review of this one a while back, but this is the Crystal Focus 10 board right here. You can see that the Golden Harvest board is a fair bit smaller. It still has the little memory card, so it still gives you access to it. The overall install on the Bendu Armory is really clean and very well done. I definitely appreciate this. There's no wires coming out anywhere. The wires are behind the board, and they go straight behind the board up through here and into the neopixel setup up here. So very clean install with no wires. This right here, I think is a nylon. It might be, they were working on replacing this with something else. I forget what he called it, but some kind of metal chassis. But I believe this is nylon, which is very, very durable. I've dropped this a fair number of times, and it hasn't dinged or chipped. The only thing is it's bent a little bit here where I've taken the battery in and out. This specific version has the brass counterweight. With Bendu Armory sabers, I can't stress enough that the brass counterweight is a very good idea. Overall, it makes the saber much heavier, but with this heavy metal emitter that they have here, the brass counterweight prevents it from being top heavy and pulls some of the weight back into the saber. So it's an optional feature, but if you're going to do anything besides just sit it on the shelf and look at it, I highly encourage people to get the brass counterweight. Alright, so we've got the Golden Harvest install right here. Removable battery up front. This is a 2-button install, and again, it's a very clean installation. I did a review of the Golden Harvest V3 board a while back on one of the, I think it was an LGT core, but this one uses a 2-button setup, which isn't everything that it could be. They've revised the Golden Harvest configuration file since I did that review. It isn't everything it could be, but it is certainly easier to navigate than the 1-button setup. The primary difference between the 2-button setup and the 1-button setup is that some of the features in the Golden Harvest board, in order to activate them, like for instance blade lockup, which is one of those features that you would think that should be easy to do on the fly. With the 1-button setup, it's a holding the button and twisting the saber to differentiate it from a different hold button feature. So in the 2-button setup, they switch things like blade lockup and force push and blaster into the aux button, or the auxiliary button, which is the small tactile switch right here. So removing that twist mechanic makes it a little bit easier to navigate, because trying to figure out how to activate on the fly that twist mechanic was super weird. It still uses the twist mechanic to cycle through things on menus, so the twist mechanic is still there, and it's got a twist on feature. It can have a twist on or a stab on that you can turn on and off. But removing the twist feature from things like blade lockup or force effect or stuff like that is really handy. Otherwise, though, it doesn't really use the aux button. One of the things I was hoping for when I started looking at the 2-button setup, Golden Harvest is a little bit tricky in terms of how to access various menu items with a push and hold and then release and then tap sort of thing. So let me go ahead and show you. I'll take us into the, let's go to the effects menu. So if I've got this on, a little bit hard to hear me over that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the button and hold it, and then I'm going to push it and hold it again, and that's going to get me into the effects menu.
Choose blade effects.
Alright, and then from here, I can rotate it.
Wave 9. Slow 1. Slow 2. Slow 1.
And then lock it in. So that push and hold and then push and hold, there are other ones that are push and hold and then tap, and the difference between those two commands gets a little bit tricky from time to time. With the aux button, I was hoping that there would be features like there are on the CFX, where there were features activated by using the two buttons together, but that doesn't really happen with the Golden Harvest setup as it currently exists. So the two-button setup is easier to navigate than the one-button setup. It's still not as easy to navigate as it could be, and the difference between hold and then hold again and then hold and then tap is really kind of tricky. The motion activation on it is really nice. The only thing that I would mention about the Bendu Armory Saber install, those of you with a fair bit of knowledge about the Golden Harvest board may have noticed that I just did that backwards. The orientation on this when I got it was reversed. So all the stuff that says do this while blade is pointing down means do this while blade is pointing up. That's a simple setting within the board, and I think that they've corrected it now for future orders. But if you do have things like that, you just pop the memory card out, look up the manual, and you just change 0 to a 1, and it sorts it right out. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But so the navigation is easier. The install is really clean. I'm a big fan of the Golden Harvest board. While it's more difficult to operate than the CFX, it does give you more options on the fly. Whereas with the CFX, you can load in programmed styles. With the Golden Harvest board, as I showed you in the last review, you've got a base style and then you've got an accent style on top of it. So you can actually get a lot of customization and sort of build styles out of component pieces on the fly without having to disconnect the saber and plug it into a computer. So I like the fact that the Golden Harvest has a lot more presets. It's a little bit harder to navigate, and it's harder to I think it's harder to program if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it. The CFX was designed to play more closely with the computer and doing things with a text file. But Golden Harvest is a really nice board, very low profile, and again, with the Bendu Armory, very clean install. Highly recommend this, especially for neopixel. To my mind, the CFX gives you a lot of options. The Golden Harvest is a much easier neopixel to take out and play around with and get more out of the world of neopixel. If you're doing a baselit saber, there's really no difference between the two in terms of function. All the technical stuff and the tricky stuff to pull off is all stuff that's designed for neopixel. So it really doesn't matter which one you do. If you're doing a baselit, if you're doing a neopixel, do you want more options on the fly or do you want more options? And a little bit easier navigation. All things told, I really like the Golden Harvest, and this is a great installation from Bendu Armory, very durable. So hopefully this has been of use to you. If it has, join me back for more. I think you're going to see this thing in action in some of the demo videos that are coming up. So pay attention, because there will be a Bendu Armory Rhodium flying around in some of those, and I'll see you then.